Chapter 3. Her stomach churned. Annika was not looking forward to this conversation. Giving clients bad news never got any easier. It was the part of her job that she hated most. Cameron was already seated at the coffee shop, waiting for her update, so there was no way to avoid the issue. Come on, Annika, you can do this. Forcing a tight smile, she set down his drink. Here you go. Can I? She bit her lip when she realized his head was down, eyes closed. But without hesitating, he opened his eyes to meet hers. He must have been praying. Just that simple pose took her back to when her family would pray together. Something in his demeanor reminded her so strongly of her father. Annika, would you say the blessing? Dad asks. Sure. I bow my head, my hair falling in front of my face, veiling me from everyone but God. As I thank him for the meal, I remember what Dad has always taught me. Prayer isn't giving God a to-do list. It's a conversation between best friends. Of course, the few prayers she attempted after the fire had just been her questioning and accusing, and were only met with silence. Yes? Cameron prodded gently. She blinked out of the memory, forcing herself back to the present. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Oh, no, you're good, her soon-to-be former client reassured. What were you saying? She sat down, folding her hands on the table. I have good news and bad news. Mostly bad. He straightened. What is it? Take a deep breath. The good news is, I was able to locate your mom. But you did? Already? That's amazing! He tried to calm himself down. Is she all right? Annika was taken aback. Here he was worried about his mother's health, not even considering himself. Well, I don't know. She looked a little thin, but that doesn't mean anything necessarily. You saw her? You met with her? Yes, but Cameron, Annika winced. She told me she's not ready to meet you. His eyes widened and his shoulders sank as his breath left his lungs. What? Cameron, I'm so sorry, she answered, choosing her next words carefully. I think she's just afraid, overwhelmed, and I can't force her to meet with you. He blinked, his expression far off as he looked out the window. No, I wouldn't want you to do that. He exhaled as he rested his forehead in his hand. I was not expecting that. Annika lowered her gaze, wondering if she should do or say something. She didn't feel comfortable hugging a stranger, yet everyone was different. She wanted to think about the other person and do what was best for them, what they needed in a time of pain. But she didn't know Cameron that well. When she broke down after the funeral, her family and friends were there for her, but she didn't like it when they would try to talk to her. Everyone knew how she felt. Why reopen old wounds? Could you tell me her name? He asked, clearing his throat. Anything? I could, but she asked me to not relay any information. She seems like a very private person. When he nodded, she continued. I'm sorry, I wish I could do something more. He inhaled, but it came out as a sniffle. No, you've done exactly what I wanted you to do in a matter of a week. This is not your fault. If anyone's to blame, it's me. I guess I should have just listened to my dad and left this alone. Annika was in a state of shock at his reaction. She could see the glisten of tears in his eyes, yet he wasn't angry. Not at her, or his mother, or God, or life itself. She had expected him to be more upset and asking why, as she had done, or become sullen and walk out. But no, he was still calm and polite, at peace. Can I do anything? She asked. Get you anything? No, thank you, but I think I need some air. He stood, signaling her to do the same. Thank you, Annika, for taking my case, even though it was a long shot. And thank you for solving it. I appreciate your effort. She took his offered hand in a farewell shake. It wasn't all smooth like it is with characters in books. His fingers felt a little rough, calloused. Maybe a guitar player? Hard worker? Either way, the touch was still gentle and genuine. It was my pleasure, she answered. I hope one day things work out for you. I gave her my card in case she changes her mind. He held her gaze. May God bless you for it. She blinked. Thank you, she managed. He smiled, releasing her hand. He smiled after the news he had just received and said, Have a good day. As he left, Annika felt something in her heart she hadn't felt in years. He had mentioned God in such a way, in a way her parents would have. Annika entered the back room of Cup of Kindness, wondering if it would be a busy or slow day at work, wondering if she should respond to any more emails, wondering if Sharon would ever welcome her son back into her life. Annika hoped it would happen someday. She knew what it was like to have parents and lose them, but she couldn't imagine what it would be like to never have had them. Jake tapped her shoulder from behind. Hey boss, there's someone here to see you. Who is it? I think it's that guy who hired you a few days ago. Cameron? She asked, surprised. Jake nodded. Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. She walked out, and sure enough, Cameron sat in the booth, waiting for her. Why would he want to see her? Hi, Cameron, she said. How's it going? Oh, hey, it's going good. I just came by to give you something. He stood and revealed what had been lying on the seat beside him. Monica stared at the bouquet of lilies he held out to her. Aw? Her pleasantly surprised tone matched her expression as she took the offered gift. What are these for? For solving my case. But you already paid me, and I know it didn't work out like you wanted. He shrugged. That's not your fault. You did your job. I hope this helps show my gratitude. Well, it certainly does. Thank you. You really didn't have to do that. When was the last time someone had given her flowers? For her high school graduation, she had received some from her family, but this was the first time a man had given her any, and it was without a special occasion attached. Now she felt a little guilty. Even after failing in a sense, she had gotten a present. Actually, Cameron began, I was wondering if you could do one more favor for me. What's that? I want to respect my mom's wishes about her name and everything being kept private. So, do you think you could mail this to her for me? Monica took the envelope he extended to her. No address, just his name in the top left corner and a stamp. It was a letter to his mother, probably telling her about his life, his work, that he had grown up in a good home, that he was okay. Again, Monica felt amazed at his actions toward this. He respected the mother he never knew by heeding to her desires, but still found a way to communicate with her to let her know he cared. Of course, I'll mail it today. Awesome, thank you. He smiled softly, relieved, and sat down. So, are you working on any other cases? Well, her faithful Jake approached silently, taking the flowers from her to put them in water. Oh, thank you, Jake. The interruption, the slight pause in dialogue, gave her time to think of a response. She usually didn't mention her case, or if she did, she simply said, a fire, and people would nod and let the matter drop. Monica was a fairly private person, and besides, she didn't want to dump all her baggage on everyone she met, only family and maybe a best friend, if she had one. Just a fire, she answered, sitting down. No other customers had walked in. Jake could handle unloading boxes of creamer without her. Cameron sipped his coffee. Was it a recent fire? Are you trying to figure out if it was arson? Recent? Actually, no, it happened 3 years ago. And yes, it was arson. We know it was started with benzene. What burned down? She rubbed her suddenly sweaty palms on her jeans, but for some reason, she felt compelled to give him an honest answer. He seemed genuinely interested. What could hurt in telling him the truth? My father's lab. She had meant to stop there, but she kept talking, spewing out words and feelings. My father had converted our garage into his workspace, his own research lab, but he and my mother both died there. The killer started the fire as an afterthought, to try to make it look like an accident. So that's what I'm really investigating, trying to find whoever it was. His pupils had dilated somewhat, but his voice grew even quieter. Oh, wow. I was away at college when that happened. From what my father told me, I had assumed it was an accident, an electrical fire or something. Yeah. Sorry, I usually don't share that with just anyone. I started rambling. She tucked her hair behind her ear, a nervous gesture. No, not at all. I'm glad you felt comfortable to tell me. It means I have a trustworthy face. He grinned, trying to lighten the mood, and he succeeded because she felt her muscles relax. So what prompted your suspicions that it wasn't an accident, if you don't mind my asking? Mainly that there was no smoke in my parents' lungs, so they had to have been gone before the fire started, and the entire can of benzene was empty. But with not many clues and even fewer leads, the case quickly went cold. I promised my parents I would finish this for them, though. I want justice, closure, peace. Of course, it's understandable. I would too, he answered. I'll definitely keep it in prayer that you find the answer. Thank you. She felt herself smile. I appreciate that. Over the next few weeks, Annika continued to open up to Cameron about the case and her personal interests. He'd come by for coffee, and they'd sit and talk. Usually, she didn't get attached to clients, but something about this man made her feel peaceful. It was like a happy and carefree light radiated from him as soon as he entered a room. He made her feel safe, like she'd known him for years. The more Annika got to know him, the more he reminded her of her dad. Cameron was not only in the medical field, but he was friendly, compassionate, witty, and easygoing. He was also helpful and interested in learning new things. He'd come by Cup of Kindness today to look over the case with her. Annika definitely wasn't going to reject getting another pair of eyes to help with that. Throwing her hair into a ponytail, Annika handed Cameron a file on the table. Here are the crime scene photos. Both my parents were struck from behind with a blunt instrument, she began. Maybe something already in the lab, which suggests that it wasn't premeditated. No sign of forced entry, nothing was stolen, though a lot of the lab burned, so it's hard to be certain. That all considered, it's probable that my parents knew the killer. The lab guys didn't find any DNA, though. Time of death had to be between 6 and 8 p.m. Because I left the house at 6, I got the news at 8. Cameron remained silent, processing the information. Monica wondered what he was thinking of all this. Maybe how could she relay all of this so calmly? It probably seemed like she was reciting a script, which is exactly what it felt like some days. Did your parents have any enemies, he asked. None that I know of. That's been one of my biggest struggles. They were devoted to helping people. But this case has proven that anyone can have enemies. She cleared her throat, hoping he hadn't heard the emotion. I've questioned and tracked down a few possible suspects, but have come up dry. For example, we found a reminder in my dad's phone listed for the day of the murder. It said, "Call Deb." We had assumed it meant Debbie, a coworker of his at the research facility, but it was a dead end. She had no motive, and she had an airtight alibi. Annika took a deep breath. With that all said, the past year or so, I've been focusing on the list of my enemies. Who wouldn't like you? Cameron teased. She smirked. Well, as a PI, I've made my fair share of them, believe me. But I keep going back to this one guy, Maxwell Collins. She pointed to his picture among the papers. It had been taken during one of her stakeouts. He was someone I went out with a couple times. He was a charmer on the outside, very flattering. I quickly realized what he was on the inside, but not quickly enough. It was one of the few times I didn't listen to my parents right away. I got caught up in the hype of someone liking me and didn't pay attention that he had issues, such as a temper and a drinking problem. He was obsessive and prideful. It got so bad I even had to get a restraining order, but it took my dad to get him to back off completely. I think Maxwell may have been angry enough at my parents to kill them. She rubbed at her tight chest. It's hard trying to talk to him because he's such an angry person. I can't tell if he's lying to me or if he's just being a jerk. Cameron coughed, trying to stifle a laugh. I mean, I know Maxwell's not a good guy, and I keep going back to him as a suspect, but there's a part of me that still can't believe he would go to such extreme measures. If he has a drinking problem, that might explain why. People respond to alcohol differently. Some become depressed, others become angry and irrational, even violent. That's true, she commented in a murmur. See, you're already helping me on this case. Cameron and Annika walked over to a nearby sandwich shop for lunch, since they only served coffee and snacks at Cup of Kindness. After an hour of poring over the case, they were ready for a break. So what's your favorite color? Cameron asked between bites. Purple, but I like to wear black. You? Red for both. He gestured to the red plaid shirt he was wearing. Favorite food? Favorite thing to do? I love tacos and coffee. Not together. They shared a laugh. Things to do? Movies, working out. When my dad wasn't in the lab working, we three loved playing sports together. Annika took another bite of food, chewed and swallowed. I used to like to watch my dad work too. We had a lot of good discussions in that lab. Good talks on our faith in our Lord, she thought. He had been working on a new serum, Annika continued. It was designed to wake patients out of a coma or a vegetative state and repair the brain damage so they wouldn't even need therapy for rehab. But it died with him. The serum and plans he had for it were lost in the fire. Man, that's too bad. He sipped his drink, absorbing her words. That's awesome, though, that your dad really cared about his family and spending time with you, and that he cared for people in general, inventing serums and medicines. My dad and I want to do the same thing, helping our patients live healthy, happy lives. I can't stand it when doctors give us a bad name by prescribing pills to everyone who walks into their office with any little problem. It's not about money. It's about helping others. Exactly. That's something my dad would have said, she commented softly. Cameron smiled. So what about your mom? Did she work outside the home? Yeah, she started Cup of Kindness, and I worked alongside her. Now I own and manage the place. I love working there because it's more than coffee. It's helping others around the world, giving them hope. Every time you buy something, 30% of the profit goes to other countries to help them build water wells. My church does that. Every time we have plays or a bingo night, the money donated goes to help pay for a water well or help out an orphanage, stuff like that. Really? That's awesome. She raised a forkful of salad to her mouth. So, enough about me. What made you want to become a pediatrician? I love kids, and with my dad being in the medical field, it seemed a good fit. I take care of the little ones, and he takes care of the adults. It's nice working with family. I loved working with my mom. It brought us closer. Definitely. So I'm assuming you were a good daughter? Yeah, we were really close. Of course, I got spanked a couple times, got grounded once. What about you? You seem the mischievous type. A boy isn't mischievous. One of the funniest things I remember doing was I planted a toy snake in the middle of the street, and then I hid behind a tree and watched people in our subdivision trying to kill it with their car. This one lady was determined to mutilate it. He moved his hand back and forth. She speeds up and goes over the snake, then backs up and runs over it again. Annika laughed out loud, surprising herself. How long had it been since she'd laughed? Really laughed. She seemed to be doing it practically every time Cameron was around. Mom and Dad jumped on me for that, Cameron said, but they were smiling when they did. His voice quieted, the discussion detouring to a more solemn path. We were a close family, too. Since Mom's passing, my dad and I have just bonded even more. We're all each other have. I'm so sorry, Annika said. I really bonded with my aunt and uncle when my parents died. They've kind of become my parents in a way, even though they live in Colorado. That's what family's for. Just for the simple things, too. Dad and I really enjoy playing sports together, he continued. Tennis, basketball. He'll listen to me play guitar and piano. So she had been right about the guitar, rough hands notion. Being a PI made one observant. Tennis? That's my favorite sport. He grinned. That sounds like a challenge to me. Once it warms up, I'm game. That is the end of chapter 3. Thanks for watching, guys.